Screen Slurps.
Hello and welcome to Screen Slurps, the movie review podcast where we discuss everything that is good, that is bad, and that is savage in the world of cinema. I'm Adam Meisner.
And I'm Dash Gearhart. And I'm just a little girl off to the side, and I just wanted to ask Mr. Meisner if he's got a yacht I could ride on.
Well, you see, little girl, I do have a yacht that you can ride on. It was inherited from my very rich billionaire family, but only if you step aside to the left a little, you're blocking the view from my ship.
Gee whiz, mister. Oh, sorry, I almost called you a sister. You do look like a sister, I know.
Yeah.
And you're a mister.
You're so very kind, but please, I might just have to give you billions and billions of dollars if you actually recognize me.
Oh, wow. Well, all I can tell is that you're a really rich man with some glasses that are fogging up from talking to me.
That's
Does that
right.
mean that you like me, sir?
I do like you. I like you almost as much as I like my chocolate chip cookies I get from Nabisco.
Well, I gotta say that I can't do this because I'm a man.
Oh,
not that
my
men couldn't
word.
do that, but yeah, boy. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You don't get what we're referencing.
And I'm actually a lady.
I'm actually a lady. No, yes, nothing wrong with change. Again, we're recording this, I think, on like the trans. I'm so sorry for misstating this. Well, it's a day to recognize trans rights, which is very important and very respectful and things that should have been done a long time ago. So what I'm trying to say is, could you imagine if Some Like It Hot came out now?
Wow.
Holy yikes.
What an appropriate day to review this film, though, and what a wonderful ending for that film, too.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert,
today,
also.
folks.
Wow.
Yeah, Some Like It Hot. One of the classic movies starring Marilyn Monroe. So we will get into that, about the history, about our thoughts on it, about me. I kind of want to talk about like how things have changed. And also I'd like to really explore some things I theorize on how it may have not only was informed by society back then, but may have continued to inform people of that time, especially men. And also it might have been something that was really eye-opening for a lot of men too. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a very interesting film, but we'll get into that soon. Again, nothing wrong with men being women or women being men, or
amen to that.
Whatever suits you, what is true to your heart, that's what you should be. And Screen Slurp supports that.
Absolutely.
With that said, Adam, I think you identify as a man, and I identify as a man as well.
That's true.
So we're men, the two musketeers, as they say in Some Like It Hot. So with that said, I'm going to ask you, like I do every week, bud, which is, what have you been side slurping this week? And folks, by what I mean, I mean that Adam, he has been watching and playing and maybe making some stuff other than watching Some Like It Hot. And I want him to tell us right now.
Well, we'll be back to that movie in just a brief moment, but what I've been doing this past week, if you've been here in our past episodes, I am still playing Baldur's Gate 3, the video game that will be actually releasing later this year, I believe, but they are in the early release period right now. You can still buy the game and play it as they are making it, and that game is incredible. It is just like playing Dungeons and Dragons, only in video game form, basically, and it's just really good. It is really, really good, and that's the best way I can say it. It is a fantastic video game, and from the video game company Larian Studios, I do believe, they made Divinity Original Sin 2 and Divinity Original Sin 1. They're just a fantastic video game company, and they make great role-playing games. Definitely check out Baldur's Gate 3. It is fantastic. you have got to give it a try.
Baldur's Gate takes place in the Forgotten Realms campaign setting, which is basically the standard or default setting for Dungeons and Dragons, especially 5th edition, which is out. It's been out since like 2014, 2015. And actually, I think before that too, I didn't start playing Dungeons and Dragons or really get into it till I was like 12 or 13 years old. And that was, I think, 3rd edition back then.
Ooh.
It was around the time Wizards of the Coast bought D&D. Well, they bought TSR that made D&D. And yeah, Forgotten Realms is sort of like, I don't know, basically kind of like the Westeros or, you know, kind of Middle Earth or what have you of that world that includes Baldur's Gate. So
That's really
just so you
interesting.
know, that's where it's at. That's where you're at, Adam, the Forgotten Realms of Dungeons and
You know,
Dragons.
I have a funny story that sort of ties in with what I did last week, actually.
A phony
and it ties
story?
in. No, a funny story.
Oh, funny.
It ties in with what I did last week, and it ties in with Baldur's Gate 3 because.
And it ties in what you did last summer.
No.
I know what that is.
But what actually happened is with Baldur's Gate 3, how I was saying that it relates to Dungeons and Dragons is, well, Dungeons and Dragons, the company, they're actually partnered with Larian Studios because Baldur's Gate 3 is very much based off the style and everything of Dungeons and Dragons. And the villain in Baldur's Gate 3, the antagonist, so to speak, are the Mind Flayers, which is actually copywritten of Dungeons and Dragons. They own the villain, the character, the Mind Flayer. So if any other cartoon or any other movie or anything tries to use the character Mind Flayer, they can't. They'll get sued by Dungeons and Dragons because Dungeons and Dragons, the company, owns that character Mind Flayer. So
Or is it Wizards of the Coast that owns them?
Are they connected?
I was just
Or?
curious. Yeah, well, Wizards of the Coast. Well, really, Hasbro owns Wizards of the Coast, and Wizards of the Coast owns Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, I guess when I was looking it up, it was Dungeons and Dragons, I guess, that owns the Mind
Yeah, I
Flayer,
mean they're
so.
their own entity too.
Yeah.
I was just curious if like they own them as a subsidiary to Wizards of the Coast, or Wizards of the Coast just owns all of that.
I might have to do some more digging, but I know it's tied to Dungeons and Dragons. So, but I was also in Milwaukee this past weekend. My girlfriend Laura,
Home state of Dungeons and Dragons.
she was on vacation this past weekend. She wanted to take a trip to Milwaukee, so we went to Milwaukee for her brief little weekend vacation, and we went out to dinner one night, and I was telling her about Baldur's Gate 3, giving her the brief synopsis, and I was talking about Mind Flayers, and one of the bartenders walked by our table and was like, wait a minute, did you just say Mind Flayer? Are you talking about Dungeons and Dragons?
Ooh, I'm so glad she said that instead of Stranger Things. I mean, I love Stranger Things, but I'm so glad she knows that's where it's from.
I had to explain that I was actually talking about Baldur's Gate 3, but Dungeons and Dragons is also applicable, so...
Dude, it's hot right now. It's cool to like it now. It's not something I like was on I guess date when I was maybe like 13, 14 years old. And I mean, it was one of those dates that your mom takes you to the mall and you sit in the back seat with your date to go see a movie. And then your mom picks you up afterwards. And my mom mentioned on the way home when she was taking my date home, again, we were both kids, that I played Dungeons and Dragons, and I got so upset. Mom, be quiet! Don't tell her that. I was so afraid for other people to know that I played D&D or I was into D&D because it was something that like people just got like tortured over, and like, I mean, everything I liked like that, and Magic the Gathering and Pokemon and. Oh, what else? Power Rangers. I mean, I think the only thing I didn't get teased for that I liked was Ninja Turtles. And anime. I was really into anime. I was super closeted about like being. I mean, again, I'm not comparing my pain to someone who, like other kids who were in the closet about other things, such as like being gay or something that like really people get tortured over. Nothing like that. Not comparing my pain to that. With that said,
you're like, Mom, this is not how I want to be rolling the dice.
Yeah, I was like, Mom, like I kind of want to still date girls but still be in D&D. Now, what I'm getting to is now it's totally cool to like it because
Oh, yeah.
all of my other
Even
closeted
cooler.
geek friends are now adults, including you, and we can talk about it freely because we're like, we're not in high school. Who gives a shit anymore? No one's gonna teach.
You just pull out your bag of dice. You're like, yeah, look at my cool D20. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I got a D20 in my hand right here, right in my hand. I'm showing Adam right here on the screen, and I know you can't see it, listeners, but I got lots of D20s. I got a metal D20 right here. I got way more. I got lots.
It's like
of D20
catching
going on.
Pokemon in real life right now, basically.
I got miniatures. Here's a Dragonborn that I painted with a green flaming sword. He's so cool. Anyway, so basically is that I'm so happy to hear that she knew what a mind flayer was. And with that said, can you see the connection between that and Cthulhu?
Yes.
Like the image. I mean, you know, all the.
If you're asking me, then yes. Yes,
I am asking you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's because they started using Cthulhu for a little while until they got some. I don't know if they got sued, but I think they got a cease and desist. Like, hey, you can't use that because that belongs to the Lovecraft estate. And they're like, oh shit, like I guess we can't use that. So we're like, let's make something that's like kind of the same thing.
It's basically the
name.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing. It's the non-racist Cthulhu.
I was gonna say when I saw it in Baldur's Gate 3,
raging racist.
When I saw the Mind Flayer in Baldur's Gate 3, I literally thought it was Cthulhu. I'm like, are Mind Flayers not just Cthulhu, like multiple Cthulhus? Like,
they based a lot of like stuff. I mean, they were all like, you know, these 70s, 80s, early 80s guys. They were just like nerds that like was just kind of like borrowing from all these different mythologies that they really liked, and they just wanted to play. You know, they wanted to play the game. They designed the game to play, and especially like Gary Gygax and what was it, Arneson? Dave Arneson was the other creator, and yeah, they just borrowed from a bunch of things, and you know, it was new, and they didn't think it was going to be a problem, and you know, I mean, they definitely ran into a lot of problems, but it became what it was, and they ended up solidifying their own brand, their own world. I mean, there's multiple worlds too, dude. There's like you're playing in Forgotten Realms, but there's also other worlds too. There's like Greyhawk, there's Dragonlance, there's what was it, Dark Sun, which is basically this like Mad Max futuristic like apocalyptic road warrior D&D world. There's Eberron, which is an Arcana punk, sort of like almost steampunk, but you have like futuristic technology mixed with magic in there. There's all these different like places you can play in, which is so cool. There's one in space called Spelljammers. It's awesome. There's so many awesome places, and I think that like Lego, you know how like Lego has like different, like, you know, there's Star Wars Legos, Harry Potter Legos, there's, you know, all these different, you know, Marvel Lego. I think D&D should be the home base for like any world you want to play in. Hey, you want to play in Star Wars world? Cool. Here's a D&D tabletop version of it. Cool. You want to play in, I don't know why Mega Man popped in my head. Mega Man.
You want to play in Mega Man?
Mega Man. You want to play Mega Man? Do you want to play the Terminator? You know, the Terminator world? Cool. Let's play that. Do you want to play the Will Ferrell movie and the Step Brothers movie?
Oh, no.
Cool. We have a D&D game. But you know what I mean? Like, it should be the home base for like all these different worlds of people, and I think that would just help each other, help different like brands out and stuff. Anyway, with that said, I'm really happy for you, excited for you is what I'm trying to say.
But yeah, it was cool. But what did you do this last week?
I don't have much on my list this week, but I've been busy on my D&D project, but in my leisure time I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy 15 on my PlayStation 4.
Riding a bus.
It is so fun, man. I am having a great time with it. It's not the most unique story. I mean, it's basically Hamlet, but it's, I don't know. There's
Little Miss
something about
Sunshine
it
of
that
Final
feels-
Fantasy.
Well, it's like it's the road trip. You're there. You're like trying to go back to the kingdom of Insomnia to take back your kingdom that's been sacked by the Empire, and you're the prince. And supposedly, at least when I know, again, I don't want to spoil it for anybody. I don't want to be spoiled for it either. I don't want anybody to tell me what happens, but the king has been supposedly killed, and your dad, and you're going back to, you know, take your kingdom back, and you have your 3 bodyguards that are really your best friends, and they, you know, you call them your brothers, and you have a cool car called the Regalia, and you just camp wherever or stay wherever, you know, different motels and stuff or hotels, and you fight monsters. You got to buy stuff to camp with for food. You have to fill up the gas tank. You can teleport with your magic swords. Your sword, basically, like it's almost like a spell. The swords are inside of you, and you like kind of like flick your hand, the sword appears, so you don't even have to carry the sword. Just shoom, and it just like appears in your hand. And if you want to switch, you go shoom, now you have an axe, or shoom, now you have a scepter, like shoom, now you have a giant surfboard sword. You know, and it's so cool. And you can like throw the sword, and whatever your sword lands, you warp to it. It's called a blade warp. It's so cool, man. It's the first Final Fantasy, at least the first of the main series, that you can play without doing the turn based. It's not turn based action like a general JRPG.
Yeah,
it's action. It's action based, but there's still some elements. I mean, granted, you still level up like D&D or classic Final Fantasy. You still level up with like experience points and stuff.
That sounds very Kingdom Hearts-esque.
I never played Kingdom Hearts, so that's news to me. So yeah, there's it's an action RPG. You still level up. The fights are very quick, and you have, I mean, it's based on skill rather than strategy, and you have your 3 buds that fight alongside you too. And so they all have their skills too. It's almost like Ninja Turtles. Like you go into a battle like with Ninja Turtles, and like all 4 of you like go head and, you know, it's just like everybody's just like kicking ass all at once. And sometimes a battle can like just last like 10 seconds, or sometimes it's like it takes forever. But it's so cool because you're like teleporting all different ways. Anyway, it's very cool. I'm digging it. I think currently right now I'm in the island kingdom of Altissia, and I think I'm getting near finding my character who's Noctis, Prince Noctis. He has a fiance named Lady Luna Freya, or just Luna, and I have to I think I have to save her from the Empire, because I think that she's been kidnapped. So I have to go find her. So anyway, we're in this also, it's very Californian / Rocky Mountain Americana-esque feel, which is pretty cool. It definitely felt like when I took a road trip out to California years back. I was like 6, 7, 8 years ago, and I went out there with my friend Dylan, and it kind of reminds me of that. It's very cool. But then when you go to Altissia, you have it's supposed to be a foreign land, a foreign country. It's very Italian / French based. It's super cool. I love fantasy stories or fantasy video games that mix fantasy, you know, magic and, you know, swords and adventure with modern day stuff, you know, like that. I think that's why Final Fantasy 7, 8, 10, and now 15 are now my favorite Final Fantasies. Because even though I like the classic, you know, Dungeons and Dragons, you know, medieval fantasy stuff, I think I like because it just makes it feel real. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, we're in a car. It feels like I'm driving in a car, you know, like it feels real. It feels like, oh, this magic could still be real, you know, because there's real stuff here. Anyway, that's my take on it right now. I'm having a blast with it. I love it. I don't love it as much as Fire Emblem, but I still love it. So that's basically what I've been slurping this past week, is lots of Final Fantasy 15. So.
Nice.
Thanks for asking, bud. Yeah, man.
And you like it hot, right?
I was about to say, some like...
Or you like it cold?
Some like pancakes cold.
Really?
Some like it hot. That's how I'm going to segue into a review of Some Like It Hot. Pancakes, ladies and gentlemen, pancakes. Yes, Some Like It Hot. Some Like It Hot is a 1959 American black and white romantic comedy film, and produced by Billy Wilder. Billy Wilder, what a guy!
What a guy!
In college, in film school, I directed a short film based off we were given script segments from different classic films, and I was given a script portion of Double Indemnity. I had to direct a short film based off of that, and I took it and I kind of rewrote the context. Not rewrote it, but like put different context with it, and I made it into a short film called The Mantis, which you can check out on Venmo. Anyway, it's not Venmo, Vimeo. You can Venmo me after you watch it on.
Send me money.
Yeah, you give me money now. I mean, you don't have to, but it's always welcome. Anyway, so Billy Wilder. is a name that rings a bell for me. And yes, this movie stars the legendary Marilyn Monroe and Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon. And yeah, this film is quite the romp, quite entertaining, and it opened to critical and commercial success and is considered to be one of the greatest films of all time. The film received 6 Academy Award nominations, including Best Actor, Best Director, and Best Adapted Screenplay, winning for Best Costume Design. And in 1989, the Library of Congress selected it as one of the 25 films for preservation in the United States National Film Registry for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. It was voted as the top comedy film in the American Film Institute on their list of AFI's 100 Years, 100 Laughs poll in 2000, and was selected as the best comedy of all time in a poll of 253 film critics from 52 countries conducted by the BBC in 2017. The film was produced without approval from the Motion Picture Production Code, and because it plays with the idea of homosexuality and features cross-dressing. The code had been gradually weakening in its scope since the early 1950s due to greater social tolerance for previously taboo topics in film, but it wasn't officially forced until the mid 1960s. The overwhelming success of Some Like It Hot is considered one of the final nails in the coffin for the Hays Code, which the Hays Code is what I mentioned with the Motion Picture Production Code. So yeah, I'm glad they got rid of that shit.
Oh yeah.
So the cinematography was done by Charles Lang. Music by Adolf Deutsch. I wonder what country he's from. And let's see, what else? It's okay. I'm part German descent too, so I can say that. I guess I can say that. I don't know. Don't get me, Nazis. Don't at me, Nazis.
We'll give you permission.
Yes, edited by Arthur P. Schmitz, and the budget for the film was $2.9 million, which in the 50s that has to be like
that's quite a lot.
A bajillion dollars, so a lot. Yes, and released on March 29th, 1959. Adam, I've never seen this film before. And I know I've heard it so much in the cultural consciousness and pop culture, so many times. I just never got around to it. No one ever introduced it to me. I never watched it in film school. I never sought it out. I've never been... Yeah, I mean, like, I never had anything against Marilyn Monroe, but it was not something like I never sought out her movies. Mm-hmm. Respect for her, of course, rest in peace. But I was like, I gotta watch all these Marilyn Monroe movies. But I will say what a presence she has in this. I mean, just seeing her, there's so many things that just popped in my head throughout. I mean, anything from like cartoons to different movies that would reference, Some Like It Hot or do an impression of Marilyn Monroe. I mean, so many things. I mean, she just like is like the mother to so many, not just actresses, but creativity, art, especially show business in the modern day. And that's what basically why she seemed like I already knew her, like I already was familiar with her, because I grew up with everybody imitating to an extent some aspect of her or implementing that in their art. So this film, even though I never seen it before, it felt like a film that I had seen before, I felt like I was like, oh yeah, I know this. Especially during that end part, which I know I'm jumping ahead, but I just want to mention the song that she sings at the end. The I'm Through with Love song. I was like, Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man 3. That's what Mary Jane sings after evil Tobey Maguire, symbiote Tobey Maguire Spider-Man is an asshole to her, and and she's singing in the jazz club, and she's singing the I'm Through with Love song, and Marilyn Monroe sings. I'm like, hey, Mary Jane. I'm like, nope. Spider-Man 3 was referencing Some Like It Hot. So I had to like rewind my brain because I watched Spider-Man 3 before I watched Some Like It Hot. Adam, have you seen this film before? If you have, what was your first impression? If you haven't, what was it like to see it for the first time now? Or what was it like revisiting it?
Well, like yourself, I had never actually seen this movie before, but I am a big fan of Billy Wilder, and I do like his movies. And although I hadn't seen this movie, I gotta say, Billy Wilder does seem like he is quite the man of the film noir genre. And I just want to point out for the listeners who like film noir-esque movies, we might have already mentioned this before, but Billy Wilder is the man that directed Double Indemnity, and he also directed Sunset Boulevard, which are two other movies I will just straightforward right now say. Yeah, and The Apartment, all movies that I will suggest right now, right off the bat. They're all great movies, and they all definitely fall into the genre of film noir. The guy knows what he's doing. There's no doubt about it. He is a man of the trade. He is a fantastic director, and even more so, he's a fantastic screenwriter. And I think there's plenty of videos out there that cover Billy Wilder and the craft, and I think they will also mention that Billy Wilder, I believe the way that they phrase it is that he saw in The Art of Filmmaking, he thought that 90% of it was the writing and 10% of it was the directing. And I think that's seen here with this movie, where he puts so much into the screenwriting here for this movie with the way this movie plays out. When I first started watching it, I'm going to say right from the very beginning, I thought it was interesting that the first 3 minutes of the movie, there is no talking in the very first 3 minutes, first of all. And even without the talking, I was already thinking it was hysterical just because the way that the characters are just acting, because it's this stereotypical Chicago mob chase.
I thought, did I rent the right movie at first? I'm like, what? Like,
yeah.
The cops are just shooting. By the way, they were chasing down that mob car, and immediately 4 cops start shooting at them. They don't even tell them to stop or put their signal on or anything.
That's what I was waiting for.
Over. Just open city roads, city streets in Chicago. It doesn't matter who else is driving. 4 cops like hang outside of a moving car and all start just blasting at this
Also,
car.
where can I get a car like the mobsters have, where I can just pull a string in the car and guns open up
ceiling?
at the top? Yeah.
It's like, what, did Batman design this car? How cool is that?
In the 1920s? Like, and the ceiling
1920s.
opens up? Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
During the Prohibition era,
Totally
their
forgot
ceiling...
I'm just saying, in this movie, it was awesome. It was badass.
There's no talking. Cops are chasing these guys during the Prohibition period. The mobsters, of course, have this high-tech, just crazy old-school car that's got a ceiling that opens for their guns. They get their guns. They're shooting back at the cops.
I
Cops
want
shoot
to
at
see
them.
more of them.
Yeah.
Later, I'm like, wait, no, I want to see this like cool, like they know how to like get ready. They know how to prepare this mob. Which, by the way, they weren't doing anything evil. They just had a bunch of liquor. They weren't driving drunk.
Yeah,
They were
in a
just
coffin.
Transporting
liquor in a coffin.
Transporting some booze in a coffin. They weren't driving drunk. The cops were shooting
to
at
a
them
speakeasy.
fucking
What's the big deal?
Like, yeah, they're just going to have some fun. They're not doing it irresponsibly. Cops started blasting them.
Yeah,
Jesus.
Why can't they take their liquor to a speakeasy? What's wrong with having some booze, huh? What's wrong with having a good time?
I didn't think they were doing anything wrong. And so anyway, they go to the speakeasy. I still don't think I'm don't think I'm watching the right movie.
Also,
I'm into this stuff.
the names of the mobsters too. Okay, so they get ratted out to the speakeasy. You see this guy is ratting him out to a cop at the speakeasy, and the cop's like, we're gonna blast him down at this raid. So that's gonna happen. He's gonna show up and blast him down, and we get introduced to the musicians who are playing at the speakeasy, talking about how they're gonna get paid. I also thought this was absolutely hysterical what they're talking about, because one of them was mentioning, we can finally pay back the girls that we borrowed the money from. And the other mentions, I'm going to bet it all on this race dog, Greased Lightning. And it's like, wait a minute, the dog's name is Greased Lightning? This is also before Grease came out, by the way. So, so do you think that Grease may have got some inspiration from this movie to name Greased Lightning?
I was thinking of Grease as well. I was thinking that too. It's funny that movie was in the 70s, 80s?
I think so, yeah.
Took place in the 50s.
Right.
And this movie came out in the 50s that
right.
took place in the late 20s.
Yep.
So, yeah. So like in canon wise, I guess the greased lightning that the characters were talking about would have been something that the characters in the future in the 50s like John Travolta, Danny Zuko was referencing from the late 20s, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I wasn't born until the late 80s.
I was thinking when I was watching this, I was like, wait, did they get this from Grease? And then afterwards, it's like, that's not possible because Grease hasn't come out for like 30 years. So, yeah, absolutely ridiculous. But then they get raided, and then as they're getting raided by the cops, the cop
Very
goes
lazily, by the way. The cops were just kind of like, this is a raid, this is a stick up. See?
Yes, that's the other thing.
They just kind of like hobbles around yeah, everybody's gonna get arrested now.
Yeah, and no one makes an effort to leave. That's the other thing. I think to myself
like,
as I watch this movie, they're like, all right, nobody move, and then nobody moves.
Except for two guys.
And as the guys in the band leave, the main characters, no one even tries to stop them.
Joe and Jerry.
Yeah, Joe and Jerry leave, and they don't even get caught. It's kind of like, now wait a minute, is everyone just half-assing their job? Like, does no one give a shit like in this movie?
If they get arrested, like, we'll be out in a day.
Like, we're raiding this speakeasy, nobody move. It's like, oh, okay, you can just arrest us.
Yeah, and if he just that police marshal, he just goes and gets a drink or something. He just kind of hangs out, and then like he talks to somebody. He's like, yeah, we're gonna put you away for a long time. Well, these are all my lawyers, Harvard men, and like 7 guys stand up from the table. It's like, and we don't see anything more from that at all.
But I also love the names of the mobsters that are in this movie, because the main mobster, the main antagonist, his name is Spats. And it's like, yeah, I knew you were in here. Toothpick Charlie told me. And it's like, Toothpick Charlie?
Spats, henchman, Toothpick Charlie.
Mozzarella.
Mozzarella. Yeah, I got to go back to that one. I'm like, did he say mozzarella? Like a cheddar whizzer and pepper jack and Swiss, Mr. Swiss. No, not really. I'm just wanting there to be more cheese names for these guys.
It's like mozzarella, never heard of him. They all talk like they got a cigar stuck in the back of their mouth when they're not even smoking. Just like, oh yeah, mozzarella, never heard of him.
Well, they might have been chewing on the chaw, so sort of like a cigar in your mouth. But yeah, I mean, it was a part of the movie that because I've seen, I knew what Some Like It Hot was about for the most part before watching it. So but I didn't expect this scene watching that. I'm like, I really dig this. It's very noir. It's very Billy Wilder. I'm like, I don't understand. And it didn't hit me until I think it was Joe that said, or Jerry. No, it was Joe. Yeah, because he was Shell Oil Jr. later. Mm-hmm. That they had to shave their legs. He's like, because they're trying to escape the mob. They're trying to, the 2 musicians, Jerry and Joe, they're trying to escape the mob, trying to escape the cops too. And, they're trying to get out of Chicago. And they're like, we should change our appearance. We should grow beards. You think we should shave? Shave our legs. And I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. And that's when it hit me and like, all right, it's comedy time.
I loved when they decided to do that and they finally get on the train. And the whole movie is just hysterical front to back. As soon as they put on the front to be women, it's pretty much just nonstop laughter from then on out with this movie. But I was really finding it hysterical when they were on the train, and I really thought that Jerry was going to end up hooking up with Marilyn Monroe. Yeah. It was really interesting to see that they kind of faked you with that one, and they had Joe hook up with Sugarcane. But when they were on the train,
make out. They just made out.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
They fucked. They just.
Well,
just
I know, but I mean, you assume in the
1950s hooked up. Yeah.
In the end of the movie, they have the assumption that it's kind of like, they're like, oh yeah, like on the boat, it's kind of like they're gonna hook up. But on the train, after Jerry fakes that it's his thing of liquor and it's not sugar canes, and she goes to thank him, she's like, I'll do anything for you that you'd like, and she jumps into his bed with him, and he's like, well, that's one thing. I was cracking up so much as he's laying there, and she's like, oh, your feet are so cold, and he's just like, I'm a girl. She's like, what did you say? It's like, oh,
Yeah,
nothing.
Man, keep it soft. Don't like, be careful. Yeah, man. Okay, so real quick before we move on, I want to know, because I think I forget. I think I missed this part or went to the bathroom or something. But how'd they get their clothes? How'd they get the girl clothes, like the lady clothes? I forget. Didn't they call someone and then they got an outfit, or they just go to a store and bought lady clothes?
I don't think they like explicitly say that. There's just a transition. All of a sudden they appear dressed in dresses, in ladies' clothes. There's just a transition to them showing up at the train in women's clothing.
You see, okay, so I'm gonna say one criticism. I would have liked to have seen that, because that. Yeah, I mean, because they almost acted like, well, these guys do it all the time. They cross-dress all the time. They're just, this is, all right, well, time to get in the bat suit. Or,
you don't see them put on makeup or put on heels or anything like that. You just see it transition to them wearing the clothing.
It's like watching Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson get into the Batman and Robin outfits immediately. It's like, wait. But we know they do that all the time. Like, do you guys do this all the time? Or like, if you do, no judgment. But like,
I know I was kind of thinking the same thing, because it's kind of like they got a talent for putting on makeup that well. If they're doing that,
it's like, wouldn't there be kind of like, I would have liked to see that scene of, oh God, I'm putting on a dress, I'm putting on makeup, I'm shaving my legs, I'm putting on tights. I would have liked to see that transition of how, I mean, again, things have changed for the better now, but back then anyway, at least the way these guys were in the 50s playing guys in the 20s, what that would have been like for them to see them go through that to survive the mob and the cops, from that speakeasy, to watch them pick out a dress or, and like watch them, I don't know. I think that would have been a funny scene, in my opinion.
Right.
And then they go to get on the train, and then they go on to get on the train with the rest of the ladies with their band. That would have been cool to see. I think that transition was just small teeny criticism. I think that transition was like way too quick. I think I would have liked to see the smooth, just a step in between. Would have really liked to see that.
Yeah.
So
it was also pretty funny to see the party that they ended up having on the train, or that Jerry ended up having with all of the women jumping on top to his bed, like, oh, party in bed 7.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. And when they get to they get to Florida, right? And they end up they go to the hotel, this real nice hotel, and there's like millionaires nearby, and on the beach, and they have yachts and stuff. And immediately, Jerry and Joe, who are now posing as Josephine and Daphne, they immediately just start getting. I mean, nowadays we call it what it is, just. I mean, sexually assaulted. I mean, they get patted on the butt, and they get just. I mean,
the one billionaire who actually owns a yacht is just going after Daphne, just in the elevator. Man. Yeah. But
the thing is, what I really, again, it's a movie and is from the 1950s. Speaking about it, from what the time it was, not that it was ever right, but it sort of started to kind of show some cool progressiveness, progression, whatever. It opened their eyes, I think, especially with Joe and Jerry. Is that when they were getting just constantly hit on, I think one of them even said this is what women go through all the time, you know? And it's this sort of this revelation of oh my God, women have it way hard compared to men. They have to and he's yeah, it's putting on it's, it's not about how you, he's I'm not even pretty. It's well, it's not what you look like. It's waving a red, if you're wearing a dress and heels and tights, it's waving a red flag in front of a bull, and they just see
he does say that. Yes,
go for it. And it was interesting them starting to analyze that. It's oh my God. And granted, it doesn't really, especially Joe, it doesn't really change him later. But at least in that moment, it seemed like they were kind of seeing oh, women have it way harder than men. Real quick to parallel on that. I remember reading this article a few years ago about someone who went into World of Warcraft and created a woman character, a female character. And they said, this is a man that made it. And they said in real life, but they said that they were treated way differently in World of Warcraft and Azeroth as a female character compared to when they were a male character. he said it was just like beyond comparison. Like there was so much shit you have to like go through with people. Like, I don't know, like I'll dig it up for you sometime, but he said it is a completely different experience, even in a virtual MMORPG world, you know. I'm just saying that like it was nice to see Jerry and Joe really, I could see it at least in their performance, even if it wasn't like very deep in the script. I could see them like, oh, not just like, oh, I'm so sick of these horny old men, and it's just like, oh wow, this is what women go through. So I will give it credit for being a movie in the 50s of really acknowledging that, you know? And yeah, I mean, even kind of go into like different areas of like what they were talking about, like kind of like hinting at like homosexuality. Granted, it was, I mean, almost stereotypical and kind of like make it fun of homosexuality. But at least it was one of those first films that kind of like broke through, like I mentioned earlier, you know, and that's good. I'll give it credit for that for sure. But anyway, they're on the beach. They've been chumming it up with Marilyn Monroe, aka Sugar, and
Sugar.
Joe gets it in his head because he's been like swapping lipstick with her and hanging out with her, and he gets in his head that he should basically deceive the shit out of her and pose as this nonsense rich guy character. And
aka a Cary Grant ripoff.
He's so successful. He's so successful. And here's what I want to talk about when I ask you about Adam is that like, okay, this seems so familiar because growing up, I'm not going to say names, but growing up, hearing certain things from men of like, yeah, this is like your advice on how to get women. Like, I remember like one said that like again, I don't support this, but I was told pretend to be gay and all the women will fall for you, or pretend you don't want them, or treat them like shit. These were all the things that like older men would tell me growing up, and like on how to, you know, quote unquote, get women or get women interested in you. And it's like, fuck, they must have been watching movies like this. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm like, where did they get that from? Like, oh, older movies. Because, like, Joe, he totally, like, is playing this rich guy character. He plays basically the heir to the Shell Oil Company. Because, like, just call me Junior. Yeah. And, like, call me Junior. Acts like he's not interested. He almost kind of, like, acts like he's not heterosexual at all. And, again, it's like pretend... like that bullshit advice to like pretend you're gay and women will fall for you. It's like even if that would work, it's not right. It's well,
he wasn't even pretending that he was gay as the junior heir to Shell Oil when he was as he invites her on a date on his yacht, as he says.
His yacht.
He was saying
the old man that goes the Yowza or something or me Yowza. What was the word that he kept saying? The guy that was into Daphne, aka Jerry.
I think that is what he was saying. Something like that. Yeah.
Yowza. What did he say? Me yowza. I don't know what that means.
Joe was just saying that he had a problem, a defect or something, because the girl that he was into fell into the Grand Canyon and he could never get over it.
God.
He was saying they tried to kiss each other and she fell into the Grand Canyon, and then he did a blood transfusion of O blood type, and then she never got well again, and so ever since then he just could never feel love ever again after that. And so then Marilyn Monroe kept trying to kiss him over and over again and make moves on him.
Maybe I can fix you.
Can I try again? Can I try again?
I'll try real hard. Please, mister. And it's just like, oh my God.
And he's just, dude, sorry, still nothing.
I don't know. Maybe a little bit. Try again. Yeah, it's like, oh God, dude. But the thing is like, this is where I'm like, really, this is almost like a societal observational thing. It's like, oh wow, like I think movies were I'm sure there's other movies too that like do this too, but like definitely this one, like big example of like, I think this is partly responsible for like, can you imagine this coming out? Not only, I mean, like I mean, so many aspects it wouldn't fit today's culture, but like, especially with like the hashtag Me Too movement, can you imagine this movie came out, how it would be received if this was like brand new today? What do you think would happen?
Oh, people would be pissed.
Yeah,
I think people would be pissed.
Definitely does not hold up in terms. I mean, yes, it has its place in movie history and Hollywood history, but it does not hold up for a movie today. And that's not to say that I didn't find it entertaining. I did find it, not the deceptive parts, but I did. I mean, the guys that played Jerry and Joe, what was it? Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon. I mean, they're really funny. They were really funny. They were really good actors. They were hilarious. They had really good chemistry together too. And especially for that time in the 50s, you had to be like really secure in your masculinity back then to go in front of a camera, to be in Hollywood, to be on the big screen and pretend to be like a woman and enjoy it. You know, they were enjoying themselves and they were having a good time.
I would have taken the job in a heartbeat. I think that would be funny as hell.
Well, yeah, of course, like, but the thing is that I would think it's much easier for you and I to do that today compared to, especially in Chicago. But dude, like, there's places in the country like rural America, they are still stuck in decades in the past. And I come from a place like that growing up. What I'm trying to say is that must have took courage for Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon to accept those roles and play them so well, on screen. Because, I mean, can you imagine, like, how much shit they must have gotten from, like, for instance, just their fathers being like, oh, what are you gay or something? What are you prance around with my son, prance around in a dress? And I don't know what character this is. This is just general homophobic fathers of America.
I'd be like, I'll prance around in a dress if I want.
Yeah, no, my son of mine's gonna prance around in a dress because that's guy's homophobic.
That's when you reply, you're like, okay, then I'm not your son. You just walk away.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's like, fuck you, Dad. I'm not your son. You know, like, I got millions of dollars. I'm hanging out with Marilyn Monroe.
So like, I'm friends with Billy Wilder.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. I'm friends with Billy Wilder and Marilyn Monroe. Yeah, it's like I got to make out with Marilyn Monroe. Fuck you, hypothetical father.
While wearing a dress. So
from the 1950s. Yeah, while wearing a dress. Yeah, that's how manly I am. Yeah, raising them right. Anyway, enough of my bits of hypothetical. I mean, not non-fictional, but hypothetical specific character of a father that's homophobic. Anyway, I'm just saying that like Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon, as much as that this movie does not belong in the modern times, I give them tremendous credits for pushing the boundaries of leading men in Hollywood. Yeah. You know, I think that was really cool of them.
Apparently, Marilyn Monroe wouldn't even make out with Tony Curtis during rehearsals. She was doing the method acting card and would only wait until they actually shot the take to make out with Tony Curtis.
Not a fan of that, as I've said in the past. Method acting.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't think they even knew if it was whether it was method acting or if it was just kind of like a mental thing on Marilyn Monroe's case or not. But because she was seriously
having
a
really hard time. So. Yeah,
she was having some real issues during the filming of this, like medically, and she was also pregnant.
Specifically with this.
I don't know. I mean, not necessarily with the film in general, but I mean, I think just like medically, like mentally, she was pregnant and she was just
mentally pregnant.
Sorry. Well, no, like she was physically pregnant, but like I think mentally she was just like she was all over the place. So and she also would forget lines like a lot. So apparently she was a real package deal with this film.
She had a hard life. She had a rough time. And I'm saying is I hear you and I second that because thanks for acknowledging that because she as much as she seemed like this like charming she had her life it's almost kind of like Britney Spears it's just like people should have been nicer to her. They shouldn't have objectified her so much, and they should have like give her a break.
I think there was something Billy Wilder ended up saying about her after the film was over, where I think he said something negative about her, and then she ended up calling his house and saying something negative about him, or like I forget how she phrased it, but it was it was bad. And then after she passed away, he had said, I found a quote where he said, quote, "I had no problem with Marilyn Monroe. Monroe had problems with Monroe." That's what he said. So I imagine it's just kind of like, she had a rough life. Yes, as you were saying, Marilyn Monroe probably just had a very, very difficult life.
I have some information with that from mentalfloss.com, and their highlight of this factoid was that Billy Wilder and Marilyn Monroe were the best of frenemies. The biggest piece of Something Like a Hot casting was hands down Marilyn Monroe in the role of singer, ukulele player, saxophonist, lover Sugar Kane. It became one of her iconic roles. She's even depicted as Sugar on a U.S. postal stamp honoring Wilder, and it was a showcase for her talents as an actor, a comedian, and all-around performer. She was really funny in it too. At first, Wilder thought of casting Mitzi Gaynor in the role, but when Monroe became available, Wilder jumped at working with the 7-year itch star again, even if it came with some baggage. Wilder recalled that Monroe showed up early for early rehearsals and was great when she remembered her lines. Quote, "She had kind of an elegant vulgarity about her that I think was very important, and she automatically knew where the joke was," end quote. But with the good came the bad. During production, she would show up for hours late for work, claiming to have lost her way to the studio. Wilder would have to run 80 plus takes to get one line like, "Where's that bourbon?" or "It's me, Sugar." She continually deferred to her acting coach, Paula Strasberg, in the midst of arguments with Wilder. All of this put epic strains on Wilder and the cast, especially Curtis and Lemon, who had to be perfect on every take because Wilder would use the one where Monroe was perfect, regardless of how well they performed. The stress led Wilder to make some disparaging remarks on the press after shooting, rapped, quote, "The question is whether Marilyn is a person at all are one of the greatest DuPont products ever invented," end quote. The director once quipped, quote, "She has," I don't know if I want to read. Wow. He's okay. I'm just going to read this. This is Billy Wilder's words, not mine. He says, quote, "She has breasts like granite. She defies gravity and has a brain like Swiss cheese full of holes." Later he added, the doctor part where, I don't know. That's kind of mean, dude. This prompted Monroe to call Wilder's home and tell him, like you said, tell him to, fornicate himself. Paraphrasing here, mentalfloss.com said Wilder tried patching things up, but she died a short time later. As the years went on, he softened in his view of experiencing working with her. And as you said that he had no problem with Marilyn Monroe. Monroe had problems with Monroe. Sounds like he had a problem with her too. When all was done and my stomach got back to normal, it seemed well worth the agony of working with her. Well, I mean,
doesn't sound like he liked it hot. But yeah, I mean, I was watching a video about the making of the film Some Like It Hot. There's actually a video on YouTube. They must have made that video. It's like a behind the scenes of the making of Some Like It Hot. And I swear I don't know when the production of that behind the scenes of making Some Like It Hot was made. The upload on YouTube was around 2019, but clearly it must have been like early 2000s or something, because Tony Curtis is still alive in the behind the scenes, and Tony Curtis died in 2010. So there's no way this is that recent. But it could have been, early 2000s or something that they made this behind the scenes. Regardless, a lot of the behind the scenes that I watched was them all talking about how difficult it was working with Marilyn Monroe. And none of them are saying that they hated Marilyn Monroe or anything. They don't quite phrase it like that, but they do explain that she had a lot of issues on set because she would just forget lines, and it was just hard working with her because they would say, they would go for a take, and sometimes just in the middle of the take, she would just stop acting and she would just start shaking her hands or something. And that would kind of be her way of saying she's having a moment and like she's just not going to act right now. Like she's got to, get her stuff together and take a break, basically. And,
nothing against Monroe, but like, you and I have both been on film sets. That's got to be hard to work with. Yeah, I mean, like when everybody's there to work, you have a whole crew, actors are there. Yeah, I mean, like, and someone's acting like that. I mean, granted, I'm not demonizing her. I'm just saying that, like, that had to have been hard. You know, that had been hard to deal with, as well as the stuff that she was dealing with on her own as an individual. That still had been hard to work with.
Not only that, but as you were reading from mentalfloss.com, I know you mentioned Paula Strasberg, Marilyn Monroe's acting coach. She took Paula Strasberg, I believe, more seriously than she even took Billy Wilder. She would look at Paula Strasberg during every take when she was acting over Billy Wilder's direction. So she would basically refer to Paula Strasberg more so than Billy Wilder. And in regards to her forgetting her lines, the ones that they were talking about, like, where's that bourbon, or it's me, sugar, the one where she was forgetting where's that bourbon, they talk about how they set up the bourbon in the chests in that scene so that she would turn her back to the camera so that when she forgot the line that they could just overdub it so that you don't see her mouth moving, so that it wouldn't matter if she forgot the line.
Yeah. It had to have been tough. That had to have been very, very tough. A little bit about Tony Curtis, also from mentalboss.com, is that Tony Curtis helped Billy Wilder realize a long-time dream, sort of. As you said earlier, Cary Grant builds Billy Wilder's White Whale. The director always wanted to work with Grant, but things never came together. In Some Like It Hot, though, Curtis got Wilder as close as possible. Besides playing Joe and Josephine, Curtis had a third role, Junior, a faux millionaire heir to the Shell oil fortune. When it came to developing how Junior would sound, Curtis brought out his Cary Grant impression. Quote, the day we were shooting that first scene as Junior, and quote, Curtis told me, quote, we went down on the beach and I said, Billy, how am I going to play this millionaire? End quote. He said, quote, well, how would you like to play it? End quote. I said, quote, well, I do this impression of Cary Grant, ... End quote. Well, do it. He said, it's quite good. So basically, yeah, it was him just kind of like, you know, hey, what's your favorite actor? Okay, cool. I'm going to do Cary Grant. So, Adam, if you ever do that to me and I had to play a millionaire, I'll be like, can I do an impression of Tommy Wiseau? And that'll be that's a millionaire, great. Right? So anyway, you're totally right. He realized his dream by emulating Mr. Grant in this.
I thought it was pretty funny, him doing Cary Grant. I also thought it was hysterical. Apparently the maracas in this film, when Jack Lemmon's shaking the maracas in bed, was also just kind of like off the cuff. Like, a lot of stuff in this movie, I think pretty much everything in this movie was never improvised. It's really all supposed to be in the script and was very much, dialogue driven. But apparently the maracas were not in the script, and it was kind of like Jack Lemmon was ready to go, but when he was getting ready to do the scene, Billy Wilder just had the maracas and was shaking the maracas, and when Jack Lemmon went up to Billy Wilder with the maracas, Billy Wilder just instructed him like, hey, can you just, shake these like you're having the time of your life, and just shake them like you're just high in the heavens or whatever. And Jack Lemmon's like, okay, and he's like, sing whatever song you like. And so then Jack Lemmon just did the scene with the maracas, and I thought that was just hysterical when he had the maracas.
I know, it was great.
Oh, one of my favorites. Yeah. And it was so funny when Joe comes back and he's just like, just remember, you're a boy.
I'm a boy. Yeah. I mean, that was great. I mean, is not right. I mean, really, it never should have been, not right. But with the way society was, like, I mean, these guys are pushing boundaries, These guys, the script, the actors, obviously they didn't have the approval to the 60s, the MPAA. It was pushing boundaries. It was getting people to kind of like broaden their horizons, get less homophobic, and I'm sorry if I'm not identifying this correctly, but like less transphobic, and just kind of getting people loosen up, like fucking loosen up about, the classic, not classic, but really the toxic views of masculinity and stuff. Now, granted, doesn't excuse that Joe, the character Joe, totally totally deceived Marilyn Monroe's character. And then even after she, okay, so basically towards the end, you know, as you know, like they get in the millionaire's boat and they you know, go get out of there because like the mob's there to get Jerry and Joe, which by the way, wherever they go, I'm sure the mob's still gonna chase them.
Yeah,
you know,
they just show them getting on a boat and going to a yacht. So
yeah, it's like they're in Florida, so I guess they could go to Mexico, or I guess they could like get on a plane and go to Europe, maybe. But like they're always gonna be running from the mob some way, you know,
right?
Because they know who these guys are now. Yeah. And Sugar's just like, you know, like, oh, I don't care, you know, and basically, you know, he's like told her, he's like, after making out with her one night, you know, he's like, oh, I can't do this anymore. I have to, you know, go and work on his oil thing.
I have to go to South America.
There's a company has a daughter there. And he's like, oh, okay. And it's like, oh, man. And then like, even after he's like, and he kisses her too. Like, and I was waiting for him when she was singing that song earlier, that Spider-Man 3 song I was mentioning. That's when Joe gets on stage with her while Sugar is singing, he's still dressed as Josephine in a wig and a dress and everything. And he lays one on her, he kisses her, and he doesn't take off his wig or anything. So I was like, oh, wow, they're leaving it be sort of like this, like, appearance of like a homosexual kiss between two women. Mm-hmm. And you know, and she's even kind of like she even kind of had that face of like, am I gay, you know? Like, yeah, because she was a woman and she seemed like she enjoyed that kiss from who she thought was a woman, and she's like, Josephine, and then that prompted her to like, because I don't think she knew it was Joe or Junior really until later, but she like chases after them. And then even after Joe comes clean, he's like, you know, I'm not Josephine, I'm not Junior, I'm Joe. Marilyn Monroe or Sugar is just, she doesn't care. She just give me another kiss, you know. She just like, it's just like, and this guy's like on the run from the mob, doesn't have money, and you know, it's like you don't even know this guy. And
Joe ends up
like,
just taking off his head. He's like, I'm a monkey. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm a monkey, you know. I'm a bucket of slaw. I don't care. It's like I'm from KFC, a whole bucket of slaw. It's like, I mean, as entertaining as this movie is, a terrible message. Like, hey, dress up as a woman. Find out how. At least just a taste of how women have it in this society. Again, it's not like they like gave birth or like went through having menstrual cycles or anything. Like, women have it way harder than that. But this is just a taste, just like a Hershey kiss of how bad they have it in this world that's made for men, unfortunately. And then learn nothing from it, treat them like shit, deceive them in order to make out with them, and then even after you come clean, they'll still fall for you. So really, there's no consequence from what this movie shows. It's like, well, you can be the shittiest dude on the planet and still score Marilyn Monroe. You know, what kind of a message did this send to America?
I mean, I thought it only got better after that when the final line of the film,
comedy wise, for sure.
Entertainment wise, it only got better after that. It's when hilarious. Jeffrey explains that he can't get married for multiple reasons. When, you know, he's not rich, you know, the lines go on until he finally lands on.
I smoke all the time. Well, that's all right.
Yeah, I'm a man. He rips off his wig. Well, nobody's perfect.
That's all, folks. Yeah. Well, nobody's perfect. At that moment, I'm like, yep, that's the end line. Of course, like, of course.
I'm not gonna lie, I was pleasantly surprised that for a film of 1959 that they're like, yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah, I mean,
as fucked up as things were and still are, but especially back then, it was ahead of its time. It was ahead of its time. It really pushed boundaries, which is really cool. Definitely not to where we are today or where we should be now moving forward, but I will give it credit for sure that it was ahead of its time. And any movie that makes people feel uncomfortable, I feel, is a good movie, you know, because like that means it like really changes people. Granted, it definitely it might have been responsible for men treating women like shit even further than the shit that they were already experiencing as dressed as women.
Partial inspiration. Everyone trying to be the next junior of Shell Oil.
Yeah, deceiving women to get them to fall in love with you, and then fucking like yanking their heart around and saying like, I'm not gonna stay with you, and then like fucking say like, well, you know what, I tricked you, and then expecting them. You know, that's I think that's part of why men in general like feel like, you know, they're entitled, you know. It's like, well, of course, why don't I get the girl? You know, it's like at the end of the movie, the guy can fuck up so much and the girl will still forgive him and love him and be there for him. Like, it's like all this, like the flaws is us as a gender. I mean, I'm just sort of like trying to hold Hollywood responsible. I mean, granted, we are also responsible for ourselves too. But I think Hollywood in the past has played a part of that behavior, that toxic masculinity. I really do believe that that's where, and it's our jobs as millennials, as millennial men and Gen Zers after us. And I think the little kids now are called the alphas. What I read, they're the alpha generation. I think that's what they're coining them as, the alphas. We need to keep moving it forward, you know, and I think Gen Zers are taking it further in what we've already kind of like started with, like trying to undo this system that Hollywood still has a part to play in that. With that, it's like this movie. It's like Some Like It Hot kind of like made some things worse and made some things better. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I truly believe that this movie deserves its place in Hollywood history, because it's such a social commentary, you know, with the comedy, it was even action. There's action in it. I mean, especially the end scene where the guy pops out of the cake and just fucking guns down a bunch of people in the mob. It's like, whoa, are we in fucking Scarface now? Yeah. Like, Jesus, say hello to my little friend. You know, it's like, whoa, I thought this was just a farce. By the way, speaking of farce, this movie was inspired by a dry German remake of a French farce.
Yes.
The seed that bloomed into Some Like Hot was planted by an obscure 1951 German film. We do my German accent. Fanfaren der Liebe, which is Fanfarious of Love, which was a remake of an older French comedy, Fanfare d'amour, of 1935. Both pictures are episodic, focusing on a pair of desperate male characters doing what they can to earn a buck. One of those schemes involves dressing like women and performing in an all-female band. Wilder and Diamond both liked that particular device and not much else. The quote, the humor in the German movie was rather heavy-handed and Teutonic. And quote, Diamond said, quote, there was a lot of shaving of chests and trying on wigs.
Oh my.
Yeah, I don't think want to see that. But that's funny that they got that from there. The humor in this, I mean, it was the best part of the film. The humor of this movie. It was really funny. Like, there was a lot of really fun moments, and they played. I mean, I know they were saying how hard it was to work with Monroe. I don't know if they just like, you know, it just worked. I mean, obviously they said they worked so hard and did a ton of takes to get the perfect takes, but well, damn, then I give credit to the director and the other actors and the crew for really working hard, because it did not appear that she was having a tough time. It appeared that she was at ease, that she was kind of floating on air, really excellent, having a great time, doing well with the comedy. So I guess that is a credit to everybody that was on set, you know, that really made her look like just the icon that she was. I mean, she was I know she had a tough time, but man, I'm not taking this away from her. Yes, I'm giving credit for the crew and everybody for like really working hard to get all those takes, and it had to been tough, but that part on her still existed, you know, because that's what they got takes of. I mean, that ease, that just she's almost comfortable. You know, I mean, she's almost like comforting, you know, like when you see her and you hear her talk, it's almost kind of like I feel like stress, you know, my stress is gone when I hear her, or, you know, I hear her sing, or she's just kind of like giggling and laughing and talking to people. So kudos to everybody. And even with the struggles, kudos to her.
Yep.
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 Yep. But anyway, the film itself, it was received very well, as I said earlier. And on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten ketchup.
Tomatoes. Tomatoes.
Rotten
It has a
tomatoes.
95%. It has a 95% rating of 63 critics have given the film a positive review with an average rating of 9.1 out of 10. The website's critical consensus reads, "Some like it hot, a spry, quick-witted farce." I almost said fart. A spry, quick-witted farce that never drags. It never did drag. Yeah, I totally agree with that. There was not one dull moment. According to Metacritic, another review agitator, which calculated a weighted average score of 98 out of 100 based on 19 critics. The film received universal acclaim. Chicago Sun-Times, Roger Ebert wrote, "Wilder's 1959 comedy is one of the enduring treasures of the movies, a film inspiration that and meticulous craft." John McCartan of The New Yorker referred to the film as a jolly, carefree enterprise. Richard Round, writing for The Guardian in 1967, said, "With this film, Wilder comes close to perfection." Though sometimes said to have been condemned by the Roman Catholic Church's Legion of Decency. I almost said Legion of Doom. The Catholic Church's Legion of Doom. Legion of Decency, actually, decency. Yes, Jesus, the Legion of Decency. Wow. That body gave the film its less critical rating as morally objectionable. Well, fuck you.
I like reading.
Morally objectionable was the deceiving of women in this. And treating women like shit. That was the thing that's morally objectionable, not men dressing as women or homosexual kisses. It was men deceiving women. That was the only thing that was shitty. Jeez. And also, like, I don't know, like, yeah, the stuff that was like commented against all the homophobic stuff.
Fuck you.
Again, as a straight man in this world, I don't know, man. It just pisses me off.
Well, that's like there's a review I found on Metacritic that's like fairly funny film with really good acting, but men acting like women is only funny for so long. It's like, who the F do you think you are?
That's gotta be, and that's another thing I didn't really touch on earlier, and I'm glad that you brought it up, is that I wonder, I mean, I watched this by myself, but I wonder like what it would be like watching this. Did you watch it with Laura by chance?
Yes.
I wonder what her take would be. I mean, we should have got like a woman guest on this episode, because like I would wonder what it would be, or at least one, not two, what it would be for them to see guys playing as women. I mean, I know there's probably some women that like think it's funny and stuff, but like, would they find it like, this is annoying or this is offensive? Yeah, I mean, like,
no, she loves this
funny
movie.
It would be for them compared to you and I, you know?
Well, she always tells me how much she really likes this movie, and she always talks about how this movie makes her so happy. She's like, this movie just makes me so happy.
And it is a very happy feel movie for sure. And that's interesting. I'd want to find out like if there's women that like just like, you know, fuck that movie because like they're totally making fun of women and stuff. And I didn't get that myself. No, I didn't see that they were like being sexist, you know.
No,
I didn't see them as being like,
they're not trying to make fun of
dumb
women
and stuff. Yeah, I didn't think they were trying to make fun of women or like put them down or like well, that's just like a woman, right? You know, there's definitely movies that do that, unfortunately. But I don't think these two guys, they were just trying to blend in.
Exactly.
And other than the deceiving part of women was very bad, but I don't think they were like trying to put women down at all. But you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. You know, maybe there's some women out there that were like, no, they sucked. I don't know. Maybe. I didn't get that. But again, I'm just one man in this world. So I'm just curious what other people would think too. But that's interesting to know that Laura, you know, feels really good with it. So, and that's valid and that's awesome. So cool. Okay, bud, we're about that time, man. We've been talking about this film a lot. Let's move on to our slurps up, slurps down section, which, if you are new to us, ladies and gents, however you identify, people, are beautiful listeners, whether you're in the U.S. or India or Japan or Korea or Sweden or
Russia.
wherever. There should be, more of you everywhere. Egypt, who knows?
New Zealand.
Yeah. New Zealand,
Canada.
Colombia, Canada. I always wanted to call Canada Canada. I think Canada sounds cooler.
That is
in my opinion.
Cool pronunciation.
Canada. It kind of reminds me of the character in Akira, the movie Akira, which is awesome and bonkers, but it's awesome. Check it out. We should review it sometime. Oh yeah, scary, crazy anime. Anyway, this is the time of the show where we give the film a slurps up or a slurps down. Slurps up means we recommend it and we liked it, and slurps down means the opposite. We don't like it and we don't recommend it. So, and we also give our final thoughts, which could be our shades of gray, because, it's a binary system and sometimes there's a little more to say about it other than what we've been talking about for the past hour. Anyway, Adam, what's your final verdict for this, friend?
I'm going to start by saying by Shades of Grey, Dash is not referring to 50 Shades of Grey. That can be something we talk about another time.
Dude, we should do like a riff tracks of it or something, like our version of riff tracks, or Mystery Science Theater type of like watch party. When we launch our Patreon soon.
I'm certainly down for that sometime. With this film, I would certainly give this movie a slurps up. Not a doubt in my mind when it comes to Billy Wilder writing and directing a movie that I have got to recommend this movie. It is so worth watching. Very entertaining from start to finish. It's just hysterical. It is so funny, especially for its time, for 1959. And it definitely lives up to its time. If you compare this movie from 1959 to a romantic comedy film from now, you are definitely going to see some very serious differences. And I just think looking at the movie from 1959, as we talked about, to see these two musicians trying to put on the facade of being two women in a female band, it's just funny. It's just really funny to see them try and pull that off and to see them really learn something from doing that. It's really interesting to see how it all comes together in the end. So I am definitely going to give this one a slurps up. I'd watch it again another time from now. I'd watch it again and again. I think it's really interesting, and I absolutely love film noir movies, and I love comedies. I definitely suggest this. Slurps up.
Cool. Well said, my friend. I'm with you, man. I'm going to give it a slurps up. I will preface that by saying that I don't think that this film should make a comeback today. It's not a film that deserves its place in the year 2021, especially if we're trying to get things better. I mean, things are definitely still not awesome in society right now, and a lot of problems.
Do you say that because of the character Joe?
Yeah. I mean, yes. I mean, definitely with like masculinity and stuff. And, there's, and someone who is, I am a man, I'm a cis male, identify as a man. Adam, I'm a man.
You're a man?
You're supposed to say,
I had no idea.
Perfect.
Nobody's perfect.
I am a man, and I believe in I like having my masculinity, and again, nobody's perfect. I do have flaws. I have definitely made mistakes, but I believe that there is a healthy masculinity. There's a healthy masculinity. I don't think there's anything wrong with being masculine. I think that it's important to strive for healthy masculinity instead of toxic. I think this film contributed to, or at least I'm theorizing, hypothesizing that this film may have contributed to a lot of toxic masculinity in the second half of the century. Movies are powerful, especially, I hate to say it, because there's other movie production studios all around the world, but Hollywood movies are extremely powerful and has big influence on our society. So I think it definitely may have been responsible for some bad things happening. That's what I referenced earlier, but I believe that it also pushed some boundaries in a great way. And I, again, give it credit for that. And it was a fun romp. It was hilarious. The actors were tremendous. Billy Wilder is legend. And I don't think it should be taken away from movie history at all. I think it's definitely its place. It's just that there should always be conversation around a film like this, enjoyment, laughter. It's pure entertainment, but have a conversation about it, talk about it. And that way you can enjoy it and keep our society moving forward too. So with that, it doesn't take away my slurps up. I give it a slurps up. I recommend it. I'm, again, as classic movies go, I'm embarrassed I haven't seen it since now. Especially, I have a film degree. Granted, it's a film production degree, but still, I have a film degree. I was a film student. But hey, you know what? Better late than never. So thank you, Adam, and thank you, Laura, for pitching that we do Some Like It Hot. I'm very glad that we watched it. Slurps up, way up, uppity up, slurps up. Go watch Some Like It Hot. Up. Cool. Wait, that is our review of Some Like It Hot. Sure, that was
like it hot.
The go-to movie. Me too. Some like I guess it was. I'm guessing for our grandparents, it was probably like their Wedding Crashers. So their rom-com. Yeah, I mean,
Anchorman.
Anchorman. Yeah, I guess Wedding Crashers because it kind of has that like, you know, two skeezy guys deceiving women, deceiving and then succeeding. Well, they were deceiving Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn's character. They were deceiving women and then they end up being successful. And I mean, granted, very entertaining movie, but it's like no, don't do that. But anyway, I'm just guessing that must have been a fun movie for our grandparents to go see back in the 50s, late 50s. Yeah. Anyway, it's plug time, everybody. Solo plug time. This is a time where Am and I please ask you pretty please with sugar on top to go check out some stuff that we do off to the side. Besides Screen Slurps, because we're besties, but we do have other besties, but we're still besties. I love Adam Meisner, not the Karate Man. Granted, he's probably cool too, but I love my Adam Meisner. So with that, I'm going to say that I do something else that's not with Adam, and that's okay. It's called Journey Punks. It is an actual play D&D show that is on Twitch and on YouTube. Currently, the time of this recording, there is the episode 1 of campaign 1 out for everybody to view. It's around 4 hours, so lots of content for you to watch there. We will be recording another one this coming Monday. I guess at the time that you're listening to this, it'll be the day that this comes out. We'll be recording the episode 2, so it'll be every other Monday. We're doing game nights, and the other Mondays that we don't play D&D is something that's a side show that's called J Punk Chunk. Basically, it's a talk show for the D&D campaign, and we talk about anything. It's like an just chatting channel on that Twitch channel, so you can check that out. It is on every Monday at 7 p.m. Central Time, and you can find us at Journey Punks, JourneyPunks, also on YouTube, and we stream on Thursday nights as well at also 7 o'clock. I don't know. The time's gonna be different on Tuesdays or Thursdays, so you can check that out. Mondays are your go-to night, so check out Mondays. Adam, what would you like to solo plug, my friend?
You can catch me on Twitter, Instagram, and SoundCloud at Adam Meisner, and I am also on Twitch at /A Meisner. And yeah, I make music. I record original songs and covers. And if you have any suggestions, you just send me a message, let me know. And I would love to do it. I'd love to record some music for you.
Adam, what's your favorite song? What's your favorite original song that you made that you would like to tell people to go listen to?
Oh, I did a original song with my last band. The band was called Password, and the song was called Thinking About You. And I'm pretty sure that's on my personal page on SoundCloud. And it's also on Bandcamp, actually, password.bandcamp.com. And you can download that for free. So if you just click download, it might ask you for a price, but it's literally free. So you just download that. If it says insert price, it's free. So
cool. What's one more question? I'm not going to make you sing it, but what is your favorite cover that you've recorded and put out there on the interwebs?
I'll
tell you mine that you did, which was George Michael. Oh my God, I'm blanking.
Careless Whisper. Yes, sir.
Your cover, Careless Whisper, was sublime.
That might be my favorite that I've done recently as well. That's probably the most recent one that I've put up. So I'll have to put another one up as well, more recently. But I did that one just a few months ago, so I will put some more material up very shortly. I've had a couple ideas, so I'll be putting some stuff up pretty soon.
Yeah, keep spitting them out, man. This man's a talented man. Go check out his work. Go check out his music. So With that said, that wraps up for this episode of Screen Slurps. Thanks for listening, everyone. Please be sure to like/follow us on social media. We release new episodes every Monday on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and just about everywhere you can find podcasts on the internet. And please be sure to follow and subscribe to us on those platforms. And if you like our show, please give us a nice 5-star review in the Apple Podcast app and recommend us to everyone in your multiverse. It will help the show grow. So closing out, this is Dash Gearhart.
And I'm Adam Meisner.
Slurps up, and we'll catch you all later.